what I would hope comes out of this research is a renewed interest in how we can redesign trade agreements. Before I started teaching, I was a lawyer for the State Department. And so I negotiated treaties, was one of the things I did. And when you do that, what you find is that there is an enormous amount of stickiness to those documents. And what I mean is that the last one looks a lot like the next one. They don't tend to change the provisions of those agreements very much. And there's good reasons for that. Some of it has to do with getting approval within an agency to change things. Some of it has to do with the expectations of our negotiating partners. If they've seen something before, they're comfortable with it again, it's easier to. But it makes progress very slow in modernizing these documents. And so, one of the things that this paper is meant to do, and that I hope will come out of this research, is creative ways that we can think about moving the ball forward to make trade agreements work for trade proponents and those who have sort of historically felt left out of trade agreements. Right now, it's not working for anybody. And I think trade proponents have been a little bit slow to recognize that, because we do see this every 4 years, this reaction against trade agreements, and it typically goes away, and it's not going away now. The key to reviving trade agreements is going to be convincing those who have traditionally been skeptical of trade agreements that there's something in it for them. And so an economic development chapter does that. And what the proposal that's in my paper would involve fairly specific financial commitments at an international level that would be enforceable through the ordinary dispute resolution mechanisms that apply to these trade agreements. So if there was a failure to actually live up to the spending commitments, for example, the infrastructure commitments, another country could come and say, look, you're not living up to your commitments, and we're going to take you to an international tribunal that's going to make a decision and say, there's compensation that is owed here because you're not living up to it. I think if you say that to these organizations and these groups that really feel like they've been left out of the benefits of trade, that starts to make them feel like, look, we are getting something out of this, and we're getting something out of it that is tied to the agreement itself. I basically think the trade regime delivers a lot of value, both in terms of economic value to consumers and to companies, but also just in terms of quality of life, almost human rights considerations. That the trade regime has done more to lift people out of poverty around the world than almost any international legal regime we can think of.